Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the SWES. It is time for the Super Bowl. Real quick, want to thank everybody for this season. Channel grew a lot. Thanks for the support. Love making these videos, and those of you who take time out of your day to watch them means the world to me. So thanks for the support this season. We got one game left. It's Chiefs-Eagles, obviously. Let's talk about the Super Bowl. I mean, is Cooper Rush worth 2.5 points? I would hope Quinn Ewers put up a decent stat line against Arizona State. If he didn't, we have a real problem.
You can say the same thing about Creighton. Okay, they had the one good game against Kansas at home.
When Toast talks about the kicking market, it's like some earth is flat shit. Andy, true or false, this is going to be a dog walking.
Dog walking. This is my dog walking of the day. I think it's going to be very ugly. Dog walking. I think this is going to be ugly.
Hey, get the sauce. All right, Kansas City, Philadelphia. This one's being played in New Orleans. Eagles catching 1.5 mostly. There are a couple ones out there. Total sitting at 48.5. Well, pretty much 48.5 across the board at this point. Let's take a quick look at the pie charts. And according to the data, action's coming in pretty heavily on the Philadelphia side. Over 65% of the tickets, over 75% of the money. But as I've said all season, take this data with a grain of salt. So it's Super Bowl Sunday. So obviously we're going to talk about a lot of ridiculous trends here. Let's take a look. Chiefs versus Eagles. In their last 5 matchups, Kansas City is 4-1 against the spread. So betting the Chiefs against the Eagles has been profitable. In those matchups between the Chiefs and the Eagles, they're actually 7-3 to the over in the last 10. All right, tilted towards the over in this head-to-head series. How about a Chiefs Super Bowl trend? So Kansas City in the Super Bowl in the first half, 3-1 on the money line, but 3-1 on the full game. Meaning, if you bet Kansas City's opponent first half money line, Kansas City full game money line in a same game parlay, you'd be 2-2. The odds for such a parlay sitting at plus 600 on DraftKings. Now, this is not me telling you this is a good bet. I just thought it was interesting. And let's continue down the path of ridiculous Super Bowl trends. The Kansas City Chiefs will be wearing white jerseys in this one. The team wearing white jerseys is 16-4 in the last 20 Super Bowls. How about a ridiculous trend that favors the Eagles? The team that rushes for more yards in the game, 43-15 in Super Bowl history. Obviously, I'm saying that favors the Eagles because they've got the best rushing attack in the NFL. On that same topic, the team that wins the time of possession battle, 41-17 in Super Bowl history. The reason I think that would favor the Eagles is they're first in the NFL in average time of possession. Also, underdogs have been profitable in the Super Bowl, 17-6 against the spread in the last 23 Super Bowls, 13-4 against the spread in the last 17 Super Bowls. How about the higher playoff seed? Obviously, that's the Kansas City Chiefs. The team with the higher playoff seed is 2-16-2 against the spread in the last 20 Super Bowls. And the team with a better record, who would also be the Kansas City Chiefs, 1-16 against the spread in the last 17 Super Bowls. Now, are these interesting? Sure. Will they impact my bet? Probably not. So let's get into some real hard-hitting analysis here. We'll start with the estimated probability of the coin flip. I did a deep dive on this, talked to a couple coin experts, couple currency experts. Apparently, the estimated probability is 50% heads, 50% tails. So if you're placing a bet on this, there you go. Now, all jokes aside, though, let's talk some injury reports. On the Kansas City side, offensively, just Rashee Rice. Other than that, the Chiefs' offense is going to be good to go for this one. As far as the Eagles' defense goes, we're not going to get Nakobe Dean back. He's been ruled out. Some good news, though. Looks like Brandon Graham is going to be back for the Eagles. He's been out a couple months now. Also, Jalen Carter, he was limited in practice. I believe he was upgraded to a full participant in practice. So it looks like Jalen Carter is going to be good to go as well, which is obviously huge. On the offensive side of the ball for Philadelphia, we have a couple of question marks here. Kenneth Gainwell is listed as questionable. I believe he's dealing with a concussion. I think there's a realistic chance that he's not going to play here. Devontae Smith also listed as questionable. From what I'm reading, I think he is going to play, though. From what I'm reading, now I'm basing this off of articles I've read, it looks like Kenneth Gainwell has a realistic chance of not playing, where Devontae Smith most likely is playing. Don't quote me on that. That's I'm just sharing what I gather. And lastly, the Chiefs defense will be at full strength for this one. Nobody on the report, so we're going to see Spagnuolo with a full strength Kansas City defense for this one. So without any further ado, let's get into this matchup, and we'll start with the Kansas City offense against the Philadelphia defense. on paper, the Eagles have the edge here. I mean, this is the best defense in the NFL. If we're talking about full season data, the Eagles defense is first in yards per play allowed, first in success rate, first against the pass, top 10 against the run. Kansas City offensively, not the sexiest numbers, as I'm sure you know. Success rate looks great, though. What is the story with this Kansas City offense? You can't get them off the field. They continue to find ways to move the chains, regardless of how ugly it may look at times. They're 8th in success rate, 10th in success rate per dropback, 7th in success rate per rush. So what do we think about the matchup for Patrick Mahomes? Well, number one, this is an Eagles defense that does not blitz a lot. They're 26th in blitz rate. Patrick Mahomes splits when blitzed and when not blitzed. Nothing really significant here. The completion percentage is higher. Passer rating is higher, but yards per pass attempt is lower, meaning Patrick Mahomes does not throw the ball downfield much when he's not blitzed. And I mean, that's kind of been the story with Mahomes this year, as I'm sure you know. 6.5 yards, his average depth of target, 30th in the NFL. That could be some bad news here against Philadelphia, who's the best defense in the NFL on throws under 10 yards. First in EPA per dropback allowed, first in success rate per dropback allowed. So this might be a tough matchup for Patrick Mahomes, who loves to take those underneath throws. They might not be there all game in this one against Philadelphia. Philadelphia's pass rush should definitely be a concern here for the Chiefs. Not that the Chiefs' offensive line has been terrible in pass protection. They've been all right. They're 14th in pressure rate allowed. These are regular season numbers, by the way. 14th in pressure rate allowed, 13th in pass blocking grade, 15th in adjusted sack rate. Philadelphia just 23rd in pressure rate, but they're second in PFF pass rush grade. That's because teams, it's kind of like the Pittsburgh Steelers effect. Teams game plan to get the ball out quickly against this Philadelphia team. If you actually look at the time to pressure numbers, that'll really show you how quickly the defense gets to the quarterback. They're 7th in the NFL in time to pressure, 3rd in time to throw. So quarterbacks are getting the ball out quickly against Philadelphia, and specifically in the playoffs, 2.37 seconds to pressure. So this Philadelphia pass rush is on one right now. To give you an idea for reference, the Cleveland Browns led the NFL in seconds to pressure at 2.38. So the Eagles in the playoffs, 2.37 seconds to pressure. That would be first in the league this year throughout the regular season. Also, we may have a huge mismatch here on the line of scrimmage. Mike Caliendo, the left guard for Kansas City, he's got a 43.6 PFF pass blocking grade this year. Obviously, that's not very good. In the last 4 games, he's allowed 13 pressures. He's going to be lined up against Jalen Carter, who's on a scorcher right now. On the season, he's got an 84.9 PFF pass rush grade. 15 pressures in his last 2 games. 15 pressures in 2 games. So that's what we call a mismatch. The Eagles' defensive front, the Eagles' pass rush definitely should be an issue here for Kansas City's offensive line. Now, the good news, if you're betting the Chiefs, is Patrick Mahomes really hasn't had problems with pressure this year. Actually, his numbers when given a clean pocket are a little concerning, but under pressure, he's handled himself great. I mean, it's Patrick Mahomes. Of course he has. 15th in pressure to sack rate, so he doesn't take sacks at a high rate. 7th in turnover-worthy play rate, so he hasn't put the ball in harm's way when seeing this pressure. So the Eagles' pass rush should definitely be a concern here for Kansas City, but if there's one quarterback that's equipped to handle a mismatch like that, I mean, it's Patrick Mahomes, obviously. That being said, want to know another quarterback who's handled pressure really well this year? Jaden Daniels, and he didn't really do much against the Eagles. Not last week, 2 weeks ago. 29 of 48, 255 yards. 255 passing yards on 48 dropbacks is not good. Those are not efficient numbers. 72-8 pass rating, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Now look, am I saying the Eagles are going to hold Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl to a stat line like this? Of course not. In fact, there's a couple things I like here for Patrick Mahomes. Number one, he seems to be playing his best football right now at the perfect time, which seems to happen every single year. In his last 3 games against the Steelers on Christmas Day, that was still a meaningful game, by the way. So in his last 3 games, he's completing over 70% of his passes, over 247 yards per game, 5 touchdowns, no picks, average pass rating over 112. Also, Philadelphia is a team that runs a lot of cover 6, over 17% frequency. That's a lot. Teams don't run cover 6 like that. The Eagles do. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL against cover 6. First in passer rating, 5th in yards per attempt, over 10.1 yards per pass attempt against cover 6. So Patrick Mahomes, not a guy that throws the ball downfield much, but against cover 6, he actually has a little bit. Now, it's just 37 pass attempts. It's not the hugest sample size here, but I thought it was interesting enough to include in the video. Now, what about the ground game? Are the Chiefs going to be able to give Patrick Mahomes any run support in this one? That's a tougher question to answer. The Eagles are the best pass defense in the NFL, but when it comes to stopping the run, I mean, they're still great, But I wouldn't call the Eagles a top 5 run defense. I'd probably have them closer to top 10, maybe 8 through 10, somewhere in there. In the last 7 games of the regular season, they allowed 4.29 yards per carry, over 110 rushing yards per game. Again, not that these numbers are bad. I'm just saying the Eagles defense, elite against the pass, maybe not quite so elite against the run. In the playoffs so far, I mean, Green Bay and the Rams, 109 rushing yards per game in those two, over 4.7 yards per carry. Washington really wasn't able to run the ball, but they still averaged close to 4 yards per carry. So again, this Eagles run defense, not exactly elite. It's the pass defense that's elite. That being said, I mean, Kansas City hasn't done much on the ground in the playoffs so far this year. 56 carries, 203 yards, 3.62 yards per carry. Also, you have to keep in mind that the Eagles are probably getting Brandon Graham back on the defensive front. PFF has his run defense grade at 80.1. That's 8th best in the NFL amongst his position. So this is one of the most important pieces in the Eagles defensive front in terms of stopping the run. In fact, we saw the Eagles run defense fall off a little bit when he got hurt. If you look at the Eagles' last 4 games that he played, weeks 8 through 11, they were allowing less than 78 rushing yards per game, 3.52 yards per carry, success rate per rush under 32%. So I'm not saying the Eagles are just going to shut Kansas City down on the ground. I'm just saying getting Brandon Graham back definitely helps with that. So overall on this side of the ball, obviously we're talking about Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. I mean, as good as the Eagles pass defense is, no way they're going to shut Mahomes down. That being said, getting Brandon Graham back, I do think they're able to keep the Chiefs from running the ball, at least limit it in this game. The Eagles are the best defense in the NFL, limiting those short passes that Mahomes loves. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs offense doesn't look all that great in this one. This is the best defense in the NFL. So on paper, I like the matchup for the Eagles defense. I do. Now, what about the other side of the ball? We got the Eagles offense against the Chiefs defense. And on paper, this is a very close matchup here. Kansas City defensively, 9th in yards per play, 13th in success rate. The Eagles offense, 11th and 13th. So again, a very close matchup on paper in this one. The Chiefs pass rush, very similar to the Eagles pass rush. They're like 22nd in pressure rate or something like that. But if you look at the time to pressure, 3rd in the NFL, 4th in time to throw. So just like the Eagles pass rush, this is a top 5 unit. The numbers don't necessarily show it, but they are. And unlike Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts has had problems in this department. 33rd in yards per pass attempt under pressure, 29th in turnover-worthy play rate, 28th in pressure to sack rate. So the Chiefs pass rush is definitely a concern here for Jalen Hurts. And these are the regular season numbers, by the way. In case you're wondering, it hasn't got better in the playoffs. Jalen Hurts under pressure in the playoffs this year, 7 of 21, 72 yards. Passer rating under 58. So Jalen Hurts has struggled handling pressure so far this year. Chiefs have a top 5 pass rush. That's a problem. That being said, there are some things I like here for Jalen Hurts. Obviously, we're talking about Steve Spagnuolo, so you know those blitzes are coming. They're 3rd in the NFL in blitz rate. Jalen Hurts has actually handled the blitz well. 9th in completion percentage, 12th in yards per attempt, 6th in pass rating. Now, this is when the blitz doesn't get there. Obviously, some of these blitz packages are going to get home, and it's Jalen Hurts. He tends to hold on to the football. Chiefs should be able to record a couple sacks, at least a couple sacks in this one. That being said, when you're blitzing, you're not getting home on every single play, and the plays that the Chiefs blitz packages don't get there, Jalen Hurts should definitely have opportunities to make some plays. He's 6th in the NFL in passer rating when blitzed. Also, Jalen Hurts throws the ball to the sidelines a lot. 54% of his pass attempts are thrown outside the numbers, 2nd most in the NFL. Want to know who has the worst defense in the NFL defending the sidelines? The Kansas City Chiefs, allowing a passer rating over 120, dead last, 32nd in the NFL. And another thing, we just saw this matchup 2 years ago in the Super Bowl, and Jalen Hurts played well. 304 passing yards in the game, 1 touchdown, no picks, passer rating over 103. Also, he was active on the ground. 15 carries, 70 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns in the game. The problem for the Eagles in that one, they got 0 production out of the running back position. They had 3 RBs in that one that they were using. Those 3 guys combined for 17 carries, 45 yards, 2.65 yards per carry. That was the Eagles' problem in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. They got 0 production out of the running back position. Well, in case you haven't heard, they have Saquon Barkley now, who's probably the best running back in the NFL. Through the 3 playoff games, they're averaging over 227 rushing yards per game as a team, 6.6 yards per carry, 10 rushing touchdowns. So the problem the Eagles had 2 years ago, they got no production out of the running back position, probably not going to happen in this one with Saquon Barkley back there. And this is a Chiefs run defense that's been trending in the wrong direction for a while now. In weeks 3 through 11, they were allowing less than 75 rushing yards per game, under 3.4 yards per carry, success rate per rush under 27%. they were looking like one of the best run defenses in the NFL through week 11. Since week 12, so this is weeks 12 through 17, so basically the last chunk of the regular season, over 5.1 yards per carry allowed, over 120 rushing yards per game allowed. So this Chiefs run defense, like I said, definitely been trending in the wrong direction for a while now. And look at the playoff numbers. Through 2 playoff games, 148 rushing yards allowed per game, over 4.8 yards per carry. I mean, the Houston Texans were running the ball in Kansas City. So the Chiefs run defense hasn't been very good at all. They're about to play the Eagles, probably the best rushing attack in the NFL. Their EPA per rush and success rate per rush numbers on the defensive side of the ball in the playoffs, these would be 31st and 31st in the NFL through the regular season. So straight up, the Chiefs' run defense hasn't been very good. So Philadelphia should definitely be able to run the ball in this game. Like I said before, it's looking like a pretty good matchup for Jalen Hurts throwing the ball. That being said, there are a couple things I didn't mention yet that I don't like here for Jalen Hurts. Number one being Kansas City is really turning up the 2 high safety looks. In the playoffs, over 66% frequency, 2 high safeties, most of any team in the playoffs. That's bad news for Jalen Hurts. He has much, much better numbers against single high safeties. In fact, his numbers against 2 high safeties aren't all that great. 22nd in completion percentage, 17th in yards per attempt, 23rd in passer rating. So I definitely don't like that. For Jalen Hurts, he should see a lot of 2 high safety looks in this one. And also, I was just poking holes at the Kansas City run defense, saying the Chiefs' run defense hasn't been all that good, and that's true. But we have to mention that the Kansas City pass defense has been excellent. In the playoffs, since getting Watson back at corner, 62.1 opponent passer rating. That's against C.J. Stroud. That's against Josh Allen, 62.1 average opponent passer rating. So as bad as the Chiefs' defense has been against the run, they've been great against the pass. So where does that leave us in terms of placing a bet? Well, I like the under. I should have bet it at 49.5. It's at 48.5. I think I can still get a 49. So I'm going to take the under. I expect the Eagles to be diligent and stick to the run here. I expect them to string together some long drives on the ground. So I'm going to take the under at 49. In terms of placing a bet on the side, I think if we're playing handicapping 101 here, I think the Eagles should be laying about 1.5, which means value-wise, you should take Philadelphia here. I mean, there's the added element of Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, and when it comes down to the end of the game, I'm a little bit concerned of those X-Factor plays, the plays where Jalen Hurts takes a sack out of field goal range and takes 3 points off the board for his team. The X-Factor plays obviously always seem to go Patrick Mahomes' way. He always makes the big play. I think Philadelphia, top to bottom, has the better team, the better offensive line, the better defensive front, the better secondary. They're better literally everywhere except for 3 spots: quarterback, offensive coaching staff, defensive coaching staff, which happen to be the 3 most important spots. So I think the Chiefs win. Personally, I'm going to bet the Eagles. I'm going to bet on what I want to happen, not what I think will happen. So if you're asking me for betting advice, if you're asking me what I think you should bet if you want to make money, I would say probably take the Chiefs. Personally, I'm taking the under, and I'm taking the Eagles. Let's put an end to this terrorist regime here in Kansas City. Give me the Eagles money line. Give me the under 49. Thanks, everyone, for a great year. Thanks for the support. Thanks for watching the videos. We'll be live for the live stream, 11 a.m. We're going to bring on some guests. We'll go through some last-minute bets, probably place the same game parlay or something. If you're able to make it, we'd love to see you in the comments. Hit me up in the Discord if you need me. Later.